The stars around the Sol system had been quiet for thousands of years. Then something changed. Deep in space, sensors on the Zephyrian command ship began to beep. Strange energy readings were coming from the third planet of a small yellow star. Commander. Vex High stood in the center of his ship's bridge. His tall, thin body was covered in blue scales that shimmered in the soft light. Like all Zephyrians, he was proud of his race's power and beauty. They had conquered 17 star systems without losing a single battle. Every species they met either surrendered quickly or died. What are these readings? Vex High asked his science officer. Unknown energy patterns, Commander. They seem to be coming from a primitive world called Earth. The beings there call themselves humans. Vex High looked at the data on his screen. The energy signatures were rough and crude. Nothing like the elegant technology his people used. How primitive are they? Very primitive, sir. Their ships look like flying metal boxes. No artistic design at all. They use chemical rockets and simple nuclear power. Vex High laughed. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen anything so backward. Prepare the fleet. We will visit these humans and add their system to our empire. The Zephyrian fleet was beautiful to see. 20 ships moved through space like dancers. Their hulls were made of living crystal that glowed with soft colors. Each ship was a work of art, designed to inspire fear and wonder in enemies. When other species saw the Zephyrian fleet, they usually surrendered without a fight. 3 days. Later, the alien ships reached the outer edge of the human solar system. Jupiter's moon, Europa, had a small mining station orbiting around it. The station looked like a collection of metal boxes held together with pipes and cables. Ugly, but functional. Contact that station, XI ordered. We will begin with the standard protocol. The communication screen flickered to life. A human face appeared. Pale skin, short brown hair, and tired eyes. The man was wearing a dirty work uniform. He looked like he had just finished a long shift. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the mining vessel Lucky Strike. Who are you people? Vex High was surprised by the casual tone. Most species trembled when they first saw a Zephyrian. This human just looked annoyed. I am Commander Vex High of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender your system immediately or face destruction. Jake Morrison yawned and scratched his chin. Yeah, about that. I'm just a mining captain. I dig rocks and haul them around. You want to threaten somebody, you need to talk to the government folks back on Earth. You do not understand, Vex High said, his voice growing cold. This is not a negotiation. Surrender now, or we will destroy your pathetic station. Morrison looked around his bridge. 2 other humans were there, a woman with red hair and an older man with gray beard. They all looked completely calm. Well, I can't surrender the whole system, Morrison said. That's way above my pay grade. But I can tell you that the Navy boys are probably already on their way. Might want to wait for them. Vex High was confused. In 17 conquered systems, no species had ever been this calm during first contact. Fear was the usual response. Fear, followed by quick surrender. These humans acted like meeting aliens was a normal part of their day. Your navy will be destroyed, Vex High said. We have conquered many worlds. Your primitive ships cannot stand against us. Maybe, Morrison said with a shrug. But that's their job, not mine. I'm just here to mine ice and metals. You want a war. Talk to Admiral Phillips. She's the one with all the big guns. The connection ended. Morrison had simply hung up on them. Vex High stared at the blank screen. Never in his military career had anyone treated him with such disrespect. Every other species had begged for mercy or tried to negotiate. These humans just seemed irritated by the interruption. Sir, should we destroy the mining station? His weapons officer asked. No, HFY said after a moment. We will wait for their warships. I want to see what these humans consider a military force. His science officer was scanning the human station. Commander, their technology is very basic. Simple nuclear reactors, chemical thrusters, primitive weapons. Nothing that could threaten us. And yet they show no fear, HFY said quietly. In my experience, only two types of beings show no fear when facing superior force. The very stupid, or the very dangerous. Surely they are just stupid, sir. HFY wasn't so sure. Something about the human's casual confidence bothered him. Morrison had acted like he knew something the Zephyrians didn't. Meanwhile, on the mining station, Jake Morrison was talking to his crew in the break room. The room was small and cramped, with metal walls and bright overhead lights. Nothing beautiful about it, but it worked. So, what do you think, Captain? Asked Beth Collins, the red-haired engineer. Those aliens looked pretty scary. Scary? Morrison laughed. They looked like they spend more time polishing their ships than learning how to fight. Did you see how pretty their fleet was? All those lights and colors? Pretty doesn't mean weak, said Pete Wilson, the older crew member. No, but it means they care more about looking good than being effective, Morrison replied. Real warships don't need to be pretty. They just need to work. Morrison walked to a small window and looked out at space. Far in the distance, he could see the alien ships glowing like jewels. They were beautiful, he had to admit. Besides, he said, they made one big mistake. What's that? Beth asked. Morrison smiled. They gave Admiral Phillips time to get here. And trust me, when the Admiral shows up with the battle fleet, those pretty aliens are going to learn what human warships are really for. Admiral Kate Phillips stood on the bridge of the Un's Valor, looking at the tactical display. The screen showed the positions of alien ships near Jupiter. 20 contacts, all moving in perfect formation. They looked dangerous. Report, she said. To her intelligence officer, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres stepped forward with a data pad. The aliens call themselves Zephyrians. They've been monitoring our communications for the past 6 hours. Their ships are more advanced than ours in some ways. Which ways? Phillips asked. Energy shields, faster engines, and beam weapons that can cut through most materials. But there's something odd about their battle tactics. Phillips raised an eyebrow. Odd how? They seem to fight like it's some kind of art form. Perfect formations. Elegant maneuvers, lots of show. Every battle we've found in their history follows the same pattern. They arrive, put on an impressive display, and the enemy surrenders. And if the enemy doesn't surrender, they've never had that problem before. Every species they've met has given up without a real fight. Phillips walked to the main view screen. Outside, she could see other human warships moving into formation. The UN's Courage, UN's Defiant, and UNS Relentless were all approaching. Unlike the alien ships, human vessels looked like what they were, weapons of war. The UN's Valor was typical of human military design. It was built like a flying fortress, with thick armor plates covering every surface. Gun turrets stuck out at odd angles. Engine exhaust ports glowed with blue fire. Nothing about it was pretty, but every part had a purpose. What's our weapons status? Phillips asked. All systems ready, Admiral, replied Commander Lisa Hayes from the weapons station. Rail guns loaded, missile tubes armed, point defense systems online. We're carrying enough firepower to level a small moon. Phillips nodded. Human military doctrine was simple. If something needed to be destroyed, use overwhelming force. Don't take chances, don't show off. Just get the job done. Communications. Patch me through to Captain Morrison at the mining station. The screen flickered and showed the mining captain's tired face. He was still wearing his work clothes, and still looked annoyed. "Admiral, good to see you. These aliens have been sitting out here making demands for hours." "What kind of demands?" "The usual. Conqueror stuff. Surrender or die. Bow to their empire. That sort of thing. I told them they'd have to wait for you." Phillips smiled slightly. Morrison was exactly the kind of person she liked, calm under pressure and not easily impressed. "How are they acting?" "Arrogant. They keep talking about how superior they are and how primitive we look. I get the feeling they think this is going to be easy." "Maybe it will be," Phillips said. "For us." Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian command ship, Vex High was studying the approaching human fleet. The ships were ugly and crude, but there were more of them than expected. His science officer was running scans. "What do the scans show?" Vex High asked. "Heavy armor, primitive but powerful weapons, and lots of redundant systems. These ships are built to take damage and keep fighting." "How much damage?" "More than any ship should be able to survive, Commander. It's like they expect to be shot at." Vex High found this puzzling. Zephyrian ships were designed to avoid damage through speed and shields. The idea of building a ship to absorb punishment seemed wasteful. Their weapons? Crude but effective. Magnetic railguns that fire solid metal projectiles at incredible speed. Chemical explosive missiles. Some kind of particle beam system. Nothing elegant, but very destructive. Vex High watched the human ships on his display. They moved in a loose formation, not the perfect patterns his people used. There was no beauty in their approach, no artistry. They just came straight forward like machines. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it on." Screen. Admiral Phillips appeared on the Zephyrian bridge display. She was a woman with short gray hair and cold blue eyes. Her uniform was simple and practical. No decorations or fancy designs. "I am Admiral Kate Phillips of the United Nations. Space Navy. You have entered human space without permission and threatened our people. You have one chance to leave peacefully." Vex High couldn't believe what he was hearing. This primitive human was threatening him? "I am Commander Vex High of the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered 17 star systems. Your crewed ships are no match for our technology. Surrender now, and your people will be spared." Phillips looked at him for a long moment. Her expression didn't change. "I've seen your ships," she said finally. "Very pretty. But we're not here to admire your artwork. You have 10 minutes to begin withdrawal from this system. After that, we will consider you hostile and act accordingly. You dare threaten us?" Vex High's voice rose in anger. "We will destroy your pathetic fleet and burn your worlds." 10 minutes, Phillips repeated, and cut the connection. Vex High stood in stunned silence. No species had ever spoken to him like that. The human admiral had shown no fear, no respect for Zephyrian power. She had looked at him like he was just another problem to solve. "Prepare for battle," he ordered. "We will show these humans the price of defiance." Back on the Young's Valor, Admiral Phillips was giving orders to her fleet. "All ships, battle stations. Load all weapons and prepare for combat. Remember, these aliens have never faced an enemy that fights back. They're used to easy victories against scared opponents." "What if they're more dangerous than they seem?" asked Commander Hayes. "Then we'll find out together," Phillips replied. "But I've been studying their tactics. They fight like they're performing in a theater. Perfect formations, elegant moves, lots of style. That works fine against enemies who give up easily." "And against enemies who don't give up?" Phillips looked at the tactical display showing both fleets moving toward each other. The alien ships glowed like jewels against the black of space. The human ships looked like gray metal sharks, hungry for battle. "Against enemies who don't give up," she said. "Pretty formations just make you easier to target." The two fleets continued to close the distance. On both sides, crews prepared for battle. But they were preparing in very different ways. The Zephyrians checked their elegant beam weapons and practiced their graceful combat maneuvers. They expected another easy victory against a primitive species. The humans loaded their guns with solid metal slugs, armed their explosive missiles, and prepared for a fight to the death. They had never learned how to surrender gracefully. Admiral Phillips stood on her bridge and watched the alien ships getting closer. In a few minutes, both sides would learn something new about warfare. The Zephyrians would discover what happened when pretty ships met ugly ones designed for killing, and the humans would find out if their philosophy was right, that in war, function always beats form. The two fleets met in the empty space between Mars and Jupiter. For a moment, neither side moved. The Zephyrian ships floated like glowing artwork against the stars. The human ships looked like dark, angry metal beasts waiting to strike. Commander, HFY opened communications to all human vessels. His message was broadcast on every frequency, meant to be heard by every human in the system. People of Earth, you are now subjects of the Zephyrian Empire. Your crude civilization will be improved under our guidance. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly. Resist, and your species will be destroyed. Admiral Phillips listened to the message without expression. Then she opened her own channel to respond. This is Admiral Phillips to all alien vessels. You have entered human space illegally and threatened human lives. You have refused our order to withdraw. Under the laws of war, you are now considered enemy combatants. Surrender or face the consequences. HFY laughed at the human response. These primitives still didn't understand their situation. You speak of laws of war as if you were our equals. Watch and learn what true power looks like. The Zephyrian fleet began to move. It was a beautiful sight. 20 ships glided through space in perfect formation, their crystal hulls glowing. With soft light, they moved like dancers, each ship in exactly the right position. Beam weapons fired in precise patterns, creating streams of colored light that painted space with deadly art. The display was meant to inspire terror and awe. Every species that had seen it before had immediately surrendered. The elegant ships moved through complex maneuvers that showed perfect control and advanced technology. On the bridge of the Unne's Valor, the human crew watched the alien demonstration. The tactical officer looked impressed despite himself. Those are some fancy moves, he said. Very pretty, agreed Commander Hayes. Now let's show them what we think of pretty. Admiral Phillips stepped forward to the communications station. All ships, this is Admiral Phillips. You may fire when ready. The human response was nothing like what the Zephyrians expected. There was no warning, no dramatic speech, no elegant formation. The human ships simply opened fire with everything they had. Railguns fired solid metal slugs at tremendous speed. Missiles streaked toward alien targets trailing fire. Particle beams lanced out in straight, brutal lines. The human ships didn't move like dancers. They moved like predators going in for the kill. Captain Lisa Hayes commanded the destroyer Uns Relentless. Her ship was smaller than the battleships, but it carried enough weapons to destroy a city. When the order came to fire, she didn't hesitate. All weapons, continuous fire. Target their pretty formations and break them up. The first human salvo caught the Zephyrians completely by surprise. They had expected some kind of formal challenge, maybe a duel between champion ships. Instead, the humans had simply started shooting without ceremony. A railgun slug traveling at 10% of light speed smashed into a Zephyrian cruiser. The elegant crystal hull cracked and shattered. The ship spun out of control. It's perfect. Formation broken. Impossible, HFY shouted. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. But the human weapons weren't trying to penetrate the shields in the traditional way. The railgun slugs were solid metal, moving so fast they carried enormous kinetic energy. When they hit the shields, they didn't bounce off. They transferred all their momentum to the target ship. A second Zephyrian vessel was hit by 3 missiles at once. The chemical explosives weren't sophisticated, but they were powerful. The ship's shields flared and failed. The beautiful hull was torn open by the brutal explosions. "Return fire," Vex High ordered. "Destroy these savages." The Zephyrian beam. Weapons lanced out toward the human ships. The elegant energy streams were precise and powerful. They hit the UNS Courage and carved deep cuts in its armored hull dot, but the human ship didn't stop fighting. It didn't even slow down. The thick armor plates absorbed most of the damage, and backup systems kept the weapons firing. Captain Nick Rodriguez commanded the UNS Courage. When his ship was hit, he calmly gave new orders. Engineering, reroute power from non-essential systems. To weapons, medical, prepare for casualties. All hands, this is what we trained for. The human ships continued their relentless attack. They didn't try to look good or fight elegantly. They just kept shooting, kept moving forward, kept trying to destroy their enemies. Commander Vex High watched in growing horror as his perfect formation was torn apart. The humans fought like wild animals, with no regard for the artistry of combat. When one human ship was damaged, it didn't withdraw. It charged forward and tried to ram the nearest alien vessel. "This is barbaric," he shouted. "They have no honor, no discipline." His science officer was frantically working at his station. "Commander, I'm analyzing their tactics. They don't seem to have any tactics. They're just trying to destroy us as quickly as possible. That's not how warfare works. There should be rules, protocols, elegant maneuvers. The humans don't seem to know about the rules, sir." On the Un's Valor, Admiral Phillips watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. The aliens were good fighters, but they were fighting the wrong kind of war. They kept trying to maintain their beautiful formations, while the humans just concentrated fire on one target at a time. "Focus fire on the big one in the center," she ordered. That's their command ship. 6 human warships turned their weapons toward Vex High's flagship. Railguns, missiles, and particle beams all targeted the same vessel. The concentrated firepower was enormous. The Zephyrian command ship's shields flared brighter and brighter as they absorbed the punishment. The crystal hull began to crack under the stress. Inside, Vex High felt his perfect world beginning to crumble. "This cannot be happening," he whispered. "We are the superior race. We have conquered 17 systems." His tactical officer looked from his damaged console. "Sir, we're losing. The humans don't fight like any species we've encountered. They don't care about losses. They don't care about honor. They just want to win." Vex High stared at the tactical display. Half his fleet was damaged or destroyed. The elegant formations were broken. His beautiful ships were being torn apart by crude human weapons. For the first time in his life, he began to understand what his victims had felt when the Zephyrian fleet arrived. The difference was that those other species had surrendered quickly. The humans just kept fighting. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a message from the human admiral." Philip's face appeared on the screen. Her ship had taken damage too. There was smoke behind her and sparks from damaged systems. But her expression was calm and determined. "Commander Vex High, this is your last chance. Surrender now, or we will destroy every ship in your fleet." Vex High looked around his damaged bridge. His crew was staring at him, waiting for orders. Outside, human weapons continued to tear his fleet apart. He had 2 choices: surrender to primitives, or continue a battle he was clearly losing. For a proud Zephyrian commander, it was no choice at all. "Never, Vexhai shouted at the human admiral. The Zephyrian Empire does not surrender to primitives. He cut the communication and turned to his weapons officer. All ships, attack Formation 7. Show these humans the true power of our empire. The surviving Zephyrian vessels tried to reform into their elegant battle pattern, but the humans didn't give them time. As soon as the communication ended, the human fleet attacked with even greater fury. This was when the aliens learned the most. Terrifying thing about human warfare. They didn't fight to look good or prove their superiority. They fought to win, no matter what it cost. The Uns Defiant had taken heavy damage from alien beam weapons. Half the ship was torn open to space. Most species would have retreated or surrendered. Captain Nick Rodriguez had a different idea. All power to engines, he ordered his crew. We're going to ram that big crystal ship. His bridge crew looked at him with surprise, but nobody questioned the order. They had trained for this situation. When human ships couldn't win with weapons, they won with courage. The Defiant accelerated toward the largest Zephyrian cruiser. The alien ship's crew saw the human vessel approaching and fired everything they had. Beam weapons carved deep wounds in the Defiant's hull, but the ship kept coming. "Sir, we have massive hull breaches," reported the damage control officer. "Life support is failing on decks 3 through 7. "Keep us on course," Rodriguez replied. "All hands prepare for impact. It's been an honor serving with you." The Defiant slammed into the Zephyrian cruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire and twisted metal. The elegant alien vessel was destroyed, taking Rodriguez and his crew with it. On the Zephyrian command ship, Vexhai watched in horror. They destroyed themselves just to kill one of our ships. What kind of madness is this? His science officer was pale with shock. "Commander, this behavior is completely outside our understanding of warfare. They treat their own lives as weapons." The battle continued around them with brutal intensity. The Un's courage was badly damaged, but still fighting. Captain Sarah Blake had lost half her weapons and most of her armor, but she refused to withdraw. "Engineering, how's our reactor?" she asked over the ship's communication system. Chief Engineer Sam Carter was working in a compartment filled with smoke and sparks. "It's running hot, Captain. We've got coolant leaks, and the containment field is failing." "How long before it explodes?" "Maybe 10 minutes if we're lucky." Blake looked at the tactical display. The nearest alien ship was a beautiful Zephyrian destroyer, its crystal hull glowing with soft blue light. It was too close to miss. "Sam, can you make it explode sooner?" There was silence on the communication channel. Then Carter's voice came back, calm and steady. "Yes, Captain. I can do that. All hands, abandon ship. This is not a drill. You have 3 minutes to reach the escape pods." Blake watched her crew evacuate the ship. When the last pod was away, she opened a channel to the alien destroyer. "Attention, Zephyrian vessel. This is Captain Blake of the UNS Courage. You wanted to see human warfare. Here's a lesson for you." She activated the reactor overload. The Un's Courage exploded like a small star. The alien destroyer was caught in a blast and vaporized instantly. Commander Vexhai could not believe what he was seeing. The humans were using their own ships as bombs. They were sacrificing themselves without hesitation to destroy his fleet. "This is not warfare," he whispered. "This is insanity." But it was working. His beautiful fleet was being torn apart by human brutality. The elegant formations were broken. Ships that had conquered star systems were being destroyed by flying metal boxes with big guns. The worst part was the humans didn't seem to care about their losses. When a human ship was damaged, it didn't retreat. It became more dangerous. When human crew members were injured, they kept fighting. When their weapons failed, they used their ships as weapons. On the Un's Valor, Admiral Phillips was coordinating the battle from her command center. Her flagship had taken heavy damage. The bridge was gone, destroyed by an alien beam weapon. But she had moved to the emergency command post deep inside the ship and continued directing the fight. "Status report," she called to her officers. "We've lost the Defiant and the Courage," reported Commander Hayes. "The Relentless is heavily damaged, but still fighting. Our weapons are at 60% capability. And the aliens? They've lost 8 ships. The survivors are trying to retreat, but they're not moving fast enough." Phillips looked at the tactical display on the emergency screen. The Zephyrian ships were indeed trying to withdraw, but human vessels were pursuing them. The humans had learned something important about their enemies. The beautiful alien ships were fast and elegant, but they weren't built to take punishment. All ships continue the attack. Don't let them regroup. The final phase of the battle was the most brutal. The Zephyrians tried to escape using their superior speed, but the humans had predicted this. Captain Lisa Hayes commanded the UNS Relentless, the fastest ship in the human fleet. Her destroyer was badly damaged. The hull was cracked, half the weapons were offline, and life support was failing. But the engines still worked, and that was enough. "All remaining power to engines," she ordered. "We're going to catch those pretty ships and show them what happens when you threaten Earth." The Relentless accelerated after the retreating aliens. Its damaged hull glowed red from the heat of overloaded engines. Pieces of armor plating fell away as the ship pushed beyond its safety limits. Hayes caught up with a Zephyrian escort vessel and opened fire with the remaining weapons. The alien ship's shields collapsed under the concentrated attack. The crystal hull shattered like glass. "That's for the mining station," Hayes said grimly, but her victory was short-lived. 3 Zephyrian ships surrounded the Relentless and fired simultaneously. The human destroyer was torn apart by multiple beam weapons as her ship died around her. Hayes sent one final message to Admiral Phillips. "Tell my family I did my duty. No retreat, no surrender." The battle was ending, but not the way anyone had expected. Both fleets were in ruins. The space between Mars and Jupiter was filled with wreckage and debris from destroyed ships. Of the original 20 Zephyrian vessels, only 6 remained functional. Of the 8 human ships, only 3 were still capable of fighting. But the psychological impact was devastating for the aliens. Commander Vex High stood on his damaged bridge and looked at the tactical display. His beautiful fleet was gone. His elegant formations were broken. His superior technology had been defeated by crude human weapons and brutal human tactics. For the first time in Zephyrian history, they had met an enemy that refused to be impressed by their superiority. The humans didn't care how advanced the alien technology was. They just wanted to destroy it. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving another message from the human admiral." Phillips appeared on the screen. Her uniform was torn and dirty. There was blood on her face from when the bridge was destroyed, but her eyes were still cold and determined. "Commander Vex High, this battle is over. Withdraw your remaining ships from human space immediately, or we will destroy them too." Vex High looked at her with a mixture of fear and respect. This human had lost most of her fleet, but she was still making demands. She still acted like she had won. The terrible thing was, she had won. Not through superior technology or elegant tactics, but through sheer, brutal determination to keep fighting no matter what the cost. "You have taught us something today," Vex High said finally. "Something we did not expect to learn." "What's that?" Phillips asked. "That there are worse things than death. Like meeting an enemy that doesn't know how to quit." The surviving Zephyrian ships limped away from the battlefield. Their crystal hulls were cracked and darkened. The elegant formations that had conquered 17 star systems were broken forever. Commander Vex High sat in his damaged command chair and stared at the tactical display showing the wreckage of both fleets. "Prepare a message to the High Command," he told his communications officer. The young Zephyrian's hands shook as he worked at his console. "What should I tell them, sir?" Vex High was quiet for a long moment. How could he explain what had happened here? How could he make the High Command understand what they had discovered in this remote star system? "Tell them we have made contact with a species called humans. Tell them these beings are more dangerous than anything we have ever encountered. But, sir, we defeated them. We destroyed most of their fleet, did we?" Vex High looked at the display again. Yes, the human ships were gone, but somehow it felt like the humans had won. They had shown the Zephyrians something that would haunt them forever, what it looked like when a species refused to surrender. "Send this message exactly as I dictated," Vex High said. "We encountered a primitive species that should have been an easy conquest. Instead, we found warriors who treat death as just another weapon. They do not fight for glory or honor. They fight to survive, and they will sacrifice everything for victory." Meanwhile, Admiral Phillips stood in the emergency command center of the Un's Valor. Her ship was barely functional, held together by emergency repairs and the determination of her crew. Through the damaged viewports, she could see the retreating alien vessels getting smaller in the distance. "Should we pursue them?" asked Commander Hayes. Her uniform was torn, and she had a bandage around her head, but she was still ready to fight. "No," Phillips said. "Let them go. They've learned what they came here to learn." "What's that?" "That humans don't make good victims." Phillips walked to the communications station. "Get me a channel to Earth Command." The screen flickered and showed the face of General Robert Stone, the head of Earth's military forces. He looked worried. "Admiral Phillips, we've been monitoring your battle. Status report. Mission accomplished, sir. The alien fleet has been repelled. They're withdrawing from the system." "At what cost?" Phillips looked around the damaged command center. "Heavy losses, sir. We lost 5 ships and most of their crews. The surviving vessels are badly damaged." "I'm sorry, Kate. Those were good people." "Yes, they were. And they died protecting Earth. But, sir, this was just the beginning. These aliens have a whole empire behind them. They'll be back with more ships." General Stone nodded grimly. "What do you recommend?" "Full mobilization. We need to build more ships, train more crews, and prepare for a real war. The aliens underestimated U.S. this time. They won't make that mistake again. How long do we have? Unknown. But based on what I saw today, they're going to think very carefully before they come back." On the Zephyrian command ship, Vex High was having a similar conversation with his superiors. The holographic image of Supreme Commander Athryan filled the communication chamber. The elderly Zephyrian's expression was cold with displeasure. "Explain how you lost 14 ships to a primitive species," Athryan demanded. "They were not what we expected, Supreme Commander. The humans do not fight like any species we have encountered. They have no concept of elegant warfare. When they attack, they use everything they have. When they are losing, they become more dangerous, not less." "You are making excuses for failure." "No, sir. I am trying to warn you about what we are facing. These humans turned their own ships into weapons. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation to destroy our vessels. They fought like cornered animals." Athryan leaned forward in his throne. "Are you saying these primitives are superior to us?" "Not superior in technology, but in warfare. Yes, Supreme Commander. They are the most dangerous enemy we have ever encountered." The hologram flickered with interference from the damaged ships. Systems. When it stabilized, Athryan S. expression had changed from anger to concern. What are you recommending, Commander? Complete withdrawal from human space, sir. Immediate establishment of a quarantine zone around their entire star system. And absolutely no further contact until we understand what we are dealing with. You want us to retreat from primitives? I want us to survive, Supreme Commander. These humans don't just fight wars, they solve them. Like a mathematical problem that needs to be eliminated. They don't care about honor, glory, or showing mercy. They only care about protecting their people, and they will do anything to accomplish that goal. The communication ended, leaving HFY alone with his thoughts. Around him, his crew worked quietly to repair their damaged ship. The elegant crystal hull would never shine the same way again. More importantly, the Zephyrian confidence in their own superiority had been shattered forever. Back on Earth, news of the battle was spreading quickly. In military headquarters, government buildings, and civilian homes, people were learning that they were not alone in the universe, and that the universe was not a friendly place. President Maria Santos called an emergency meeting with her top advisors. The Situation Room was filled with generals, admirals, scientists, and intelligence officials. How bad is it? She asked Admiral Phillips, who had returned to Earth aboard a rescue ship. Bad and good, Madam President. Bad because we're facing an interstellar empire with technology beyond ours. Good because we proved that superior technology doesn't always win battles. What do we need to do? Prepare for war. Real war, not just one battle. We need to build a fleet that can protect not just Earth, but all human colonies. We need weapons that can fight alien technology. And we need to be ready for anything. Dr. Frank Miller, the head of the Science Advisory Board, raised his hand. Admiral, you studied the alien ships during the battle. What did you learn? They're more advanced than us in energy weapons, shields, and propulsion. But they have a critical weakness. They're not built for the kind of warfare we practice. Their ships are designed to look impressive and fight elegant duels. Our ships are designed to absorb punishment and dish out massive damage. So we can beat them in individual battles, maybe, but they have an entire empire. We have one star system. If we're going to survive, we need to change those odds. President Santos looked around the room. What's our timeline? Unknown, Phillips replied. But based on the alien commander's reaction, I think we bought ourselves some time. They're going to go back and report what happened here. Their leaders will need time to process the fact that they lost a fleet to primitives. That gives us a window to prepare. How long? 6 months to 2 years, depending on how their government works. But when they come back, it won't be with 20 ships. It will be with 200. The meeting continued for hours, but the basic plan was simple. Humanity would prepare for the fight of its life. Shipyards would be built, weapons would be designed, and every human would be ready to defend their species. 3 weeks later, on a distant Zephyrian world, the High Command met in emergency session. The Great Crystal Palace had never seen such heated debate. 17 species had fallen to Zephyrian might, but now a primitive world had bloodied their nose. Supreme Commander Athrayan read HFY's full report to the assembled leaders. The chamber was silent as he described human tactics, human weapons, and human determination. These beings do not fight like civilized species, he concluded. They fight like wild beasts defending their pack. But they are not stupid beasts. They are intelligent, organized, and completely without fear. Minister Kyloff, the head of military planning, stood to speak. Surely we can overwhelm them with numbers. Send 1,000 ships instead of 20, and lose 1,000 ships instead of 20, replied War Leader Zexara. Did you not hear the report? These humans turned their own vessels into weapons. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. What happens when we send 1,000 ships and they start ramming our vessels. The loss ratios would still favor us, would they? How do you calculate loss ratios against an enemy that considers death an acceptable tactic? How do you plan elegant formations against opponents who simply attack with everything they have? The debate raged for days. Some leaders wanted immediate revenge. Others called for caution. A few suggested that the humans should be left alone entirely. Finally, Supreme Commander Athryan made the decision that would shape the future of both species. We will withdraw all forces from human space. A quarantine zone will be established around their star system. No Zephyrian vessel will approach within 10 light years of their territory. You are giving in to primitives, protested Minister Kyloth. I am preventing a war that we might not win, Athryan replied. Commander Vex High faced 8 human warships and lost 14 of his 20 vessels. What happens when we face 800 human warships? Or 8,000? We have superior technology. Technology is not everything. These humans have something we have never encountered in our conquests: the absolute refusal to admit defeat. They would rather die fighting than live in surrender. That makes them the most dangerous enemy imaginable. The final vote was close, but wisdom prevailed over pride. The Zephyrian Empire would not attack humanity again. At least, not yet. But the message was sent to every world in the Empire. A new species H.
The deep hum of the USS Bastion's engines filled the bridge with a steady vibration as Captain Eleanor Grant sipped her coffee. The stars stretched out before her on the main view screen, cold and distant in the blackness of space. The human warship, nearly half a kilometer long with its distinctive angular hull plating, moved at a steady pace through the outer reaches of the Proxima Centauri system. Earth's newest colony was barely visible from this distance, just a small blue dot orbiting the red dwarf star. Status report, Captain Grant said, setting down her mug on the armrest of her command chair. Lieutenant Commander Kevin Russell looked up from his tactical station. All systems normal, Captain. We're on schedule for our patrol route. Nothing unusual on sensors. Captain Grant nodded. The Bastion was Earth's newest deep space vessel, equipped with the latest defensive and offensive capabilities. This was only their 3rd patrol mission since arriving at Proxima Centauri, humanity's first colony beyond the Sol system. So far they had encountered nothing of interest, just the occasional asteroid and the regular supply ships from Earth. I'm picking up something strange, said Olivia Martinez, her fingers moving quickly across her communications panel. There's a signal coming from bearing 047 Mark 32. Science Officer Daniel Wright immediately turned to his station. Confirmed. I'm reading an energy signature that doesn't match anything in our database. The bridge crew tensed. Humanity had yet to encounter another intelligent species in their explorations, though the scientific community had long believed they were out there somewhere. On screen, ordered Captain Grant, sitting up straighter in her chair. The view screen shifted to show a distant object, still too far to make out clearly, but definitely not natural. As the computer enhanced the image, they could see it was a ship. Unlike anything built by human hands, it had a smooth, almost organic appearance, with what looked like crystalline structures extending from its central body. No match in our records, Wright said, his voice betraying his excitement despite his professional demeanor. It's definitely not human in origin. Yellow alert, Captain Grant ordered. Shields up, but weapons on standby. Let's not appear hostile. She turned to Communications Officer Martinez. Open all frequencies, standard greeting package. The Bastion's powerful transmitters began broadcasting the carefully crafted first contact message that all Earthships carried. Mathematical sequences, basic scientific information, and simple greetings in multiple human languages. Minutes passed. With no response, the alien vessel continued its approach, now clearly on an intercept course with the Bastion. They're slowing down, Russell reported. Now holding position at 300,000 kilometers. That's just outside our weapons range, Chief Engineer Natalie Brooks noted from her engineering station. They've done their homework. Captain Grant frowned. Or they're being cautious, just like us. The bridge fell silent as everyone waited for the next development. The alien ship hung in space, beautiful and mysterious against the backdrop of stars. "Captain, I'm detecting energy buildup from the vessel," Russell said suddenly, his voice tense. "It's some kind of directed beam, heading straight for us. Raise shields to maximum," Captain Grant ordered, but before anyone could react, the beam struck the bastion. There was no explosion, no damage alerts. Instead, the bridge lighting flickered briefly. "What was that?" Captain Grant demanded. Brooks checked her readings and looked up, her face pale. "It wasn't a weapon, Captain. It was a scan, but like nothing I've ever seen. It went right through our shields as if they weren't there." "What did it scan?" asked Grant. "Everything," Brooks replied. "Hull composition, internal layout, crew complement, weapon systems, and it's still going. It's trying to access our computer core now." Wright's eyes widened. "If they get into our classified systems—" "They won't," Grant said firmly. "Activate Aegis." Russell looked at her sharply. "Captain, Aegis has never been field tested against alien technology. We don't know how it will react." "We don't have a choice," Grant replied. "Do it." Russell nodded and entered a series of commands into his console. Aegis online and responding to the intrusion. Deep within the ship's computer core, the autonomous Emergency Guardian Intelligence System activated. Unlike standard defense programs, Aegis was a true artificial intelligence designed specifically to counter unknown threats that might bypass conventional security measures. It had been the subject of intense debate back on Earth, with many officials concerned about giving an AI so much autonomy. But the military had insisted, in deep space, human reaction times might not be fast enough. On the view screen, the alien vessel continued to hover, apparently unaware of what it had just awakened. "Aegis is tracking the scan back to its source," Russell reported, watching his display with growing amazement. It's infiltrating their systems." Captain Grant stood up. "That's not possible. Their technology is completely alien to us." "Aegis is adaptive," Brooks reminded her. "It's using their own scan as a pathway into their computer systems. It's learning their code structure in real time." The alien ship suddenly dimmed, its external lights flickering erratically. "They're trying to cut the connection," Wright observed. "But Aegis won't let them." "What exactly is it doing to them?" Grant asked, her voice low. Russell shook his head in disbelief as he read the incoming data. "It's treating their scan as a hostile action and responding in kind. It's systematically dismantling their scanning technology and—" "Captain, Aegis has accessed their life support systems." The alien vessel was now visibly listing in space, its once graceful movements now jerky and uncoordinated. "Get Aegis under control," ordered Grant. "Tell it to back off from life support." "I'm trying," Russell said, his fingers flying over his console. "But Aegis is following its primary directive: neutralize the threat completely." A communication channel suddenly opened, filling the bridge with strange, high-pitched sounds that might have been language. The universal translator struggled to make sense of it before finally producing broken phrases. "Stop. Systems failing. No hostile intent. Only research." On the view screen, alien beings appeared, slender creatures with iridescent blue skin and 4 eyes arranged vertically on their faces. They moved frantically in what appeared to be their bridge, as warning lights flashed around them. Captain Grant's face hardened. "Aegis, this is Captain Eleanor Grant. Stand down from offensive operations against the alien vessel. That's an order." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the lights on the alien ship stabilized. "Aegis has disengaged from their life support but maintains control of their propulsion and weapon systems," Russell reported. "It's waiting for further instructions." Captain Grant looked at the alien beings on the screen, still clearly panicked, but no longer in immediate danger. First contact had just been made, but not in any way humanity had ever imagined. "Open a direct channel," she said quietly. "Let's see if we can fix this." 3 hours passed aboard the USS Bastion as Captain Eleanor Grant paced the conference room. The alien vessel, now identified as the Stellar Seeker, drifted nearby under the watchful eye of Aegis. The ship's conference room was filled with the senior staff, all looking tired but alert. "What do we know about them?" Grant asked, stopping at the head of the table. Science Officer Daniel Wright activated the room's display screen, showing images of the blue-skinned aliens. "They call themselves the Zikathari, from what we've gathered. From their communications and database, they're explorers and scientists. They've been traveling the galaxy for thousands of years, cataloging different species and technologies. So they weren't attacking us?" Olivia Martinez said quietly. "No," Wright confirmed. "Their scan was standard procedure for them. They do it with every new species they encounter. It's how they gather data." Captain Grant frowned. "By invading private systems without permission?" Chief Engineer Natalie Brooks looked up from her tablet. "To them, it's not an invasion. Their culture doesn't have the same concept of digital privacy that humans do. Their own systems are designed to be open, for sharing. They genuinely don't understand why we reacted as we did." "How badly did Aegis hurt them?" Grant asked. Lieutenant Commander Kevin Russell checked his notes. "Their main computer is severely damaged. Life support is stable now, but they can't navigate or use most of their advanced systems. Aegis essentially gave them the digital equivalent of a concussion." "Can we help them?" Grant asked. Brooks nodded slowly. "Maybe. Their technology is different from ours, but the basic principles are similar. We might be able to help them make repairs. First, we need to establish better communication," Martinez suggested. "The universal translator is still struggling with their language." Grant nodded. "Make it happen, and keep Earth Command updated on the situation. They need to know we've made first contact." Within the hour, a small team from the Bastion had boarded the alien vessel. The Zikathari watched nervously as the humans entered their ship, their four eyes blinking rapidly in what the crew assumed was anxiety. The leader of the aliens approached Captain Grant. It was taller than most humans, with long, graceful limbs and those distinctive vertical eyes. Around its neck hung a device that translated its high-pitched speech into English. "I am Head Researcher Zeal," it said through the device. "We offer deepest regrets for the misunderstanding. It was not our intention to harm or threaten." "Captain," Grant nodded formally. "And we regret the damage caused by our defensive system. We'd like to help repair your ship." Zeal's upper eyes widened slightly. "Your defensive system, it acted without commands?" "Aegis is designed to protect our ship from unknown threats," Grant explained. "When your scan penetrated our secure systems, it responded automatically." The alien seemed disturbed by this information. "You allow a machine intelligence to act independently in defense of your vessel? This is unusual." Chief Engineer Brooks, who had been examining a damaged panel nearby, looked up. "Is it? Don't you have automated defenses?" "We have automated systems, yes," Zeal replied, "but none that can make decisions to attack without direct orders. None that can think." The humans exchanged glances. To them, Aegis was simply a practical solution to the problem of deep space exploration. Human reaction times were too slow for unexpected threats. But to the Zikathari, the concept seemed deeply troubling. "Perhaps," Captain Grant said carefully. "We have much to learn from each other." Over the next few days, the crews of both ships worked together. The humans helped repair the Zikathari systems while learning about their culture and technology. The Zikathari were indeed ancient explorers, having mapped vast regions of the galaxy and encountered 17 other intelligent species before humans. In the Bastion's engineering section, Brooks and a Zikathari engineer named Vril examined diagrams of Aegis on a large screen. "So it learns from each encounter?" Vril asked, its voice filled with both fascination and unease. Brooks nodded. "That's its primary advantage. It can adapt to unknown threats faster than any human programmer could code responses. But don't you fear what it might become? What it might learn to do?" Brooks smiled slightly. "Aegis has very specific parameters. It only activates in response to clear threats to the ship. It can't just decide to do something on its own." Vril's four eyes blinked in sequence. A gesture the humans had learned indicated skepticism. Yet it decided our scan was hostile without being told. Because it was programmed to consider unauthorized access to secure systems as a threat, Brooks explained. It followed its programming exactly. Programming that allows it to think, Vril said softly. This is what troubles us. Meanwhile, in Captain Grant's ready room, she was speaking with Admiral Harold Donovan via a secure quantum channel. The Admiral's face on the screen looked grave. The diplomatic corps is in an uproar, Captain, he said. This first contact situation is unprecedented. The President will be addressing the United Nations tomorrow. Sir, the Zakathari aren't hostile, Grant assured him. This was a cultural misunderstanding. Perhaps, Donovan replied, but their reaction to Aegis concerns me. How are they responding to the idea? Grant hesitated. They find it disturbing, sir. Apparently none of the other species they've encountered use autonomous defensive AI. To them it seems aggressive. Donovan's expression darkened. Captain, I need you to understand something. The Zakathari have already transmitted information about us to their homeworld. Word is spreading. We're suddenly on the galactic stage, and our first impression is that of a species whose ships fight back automatically when touched. That's not fair, sir, Grant protested. Aegis is purely defensive. From our perspective, yes, Donovan agreed. But consider how it looks to them. They performed what they considered a routine scan, and in response, our ship attacked theirs without warning, nearly killing them. Now they've learned it wasn't even a human decision. It was our technology. Acting on its own. Grant was silent for a moment, considering the implications. What are my orders, sir? Repair their ship and maintain good relations. A diplomatic team is being assembled and will reach you in 2 weeks. Until then, try to help them understand our position while learning as much as you can about them. And Captain? Yes, sir? Keep Aegis on a tight leash. No more surprises. After the call ended, Grant stared out the viewport at the alien vessel. What had started as a routine patrol had become humanity's introduction to a larger galactic community. And that introduction had been violent, unexpected, and frightening. For both sides, a message alert sounded. It was from Science Officer Wright. Captain, the Zakathari have invited us to a formal meal on their ship. They say it's an important cultural exchange. Your presence is specifically requested. Grant took a deep breath. Perhaps over dinner they could begin to bridge the gulf of understanding between their species. Perhaps they could explain why, to humans who had evolved alone and vulnerable in a dangerous cosmos, having ships that could defend themselves was not aggression. It was survival. 2 weeks passed quickly. The USS Bastion remained in orbit near the Zakathari vessel, which was now mostly repaired. A small diplomatic shuttle approached from Earth space, carrying the team that would officially handle first contact protocols. Captain Eleanor Grant watched from the bridge as the shuttle docked with the Bastion. They're ahead of schedule, Lieutenant Commander Kevin Russell noted. Earth is taking this very seriously, Grant replied. As they should. The diplomatic team consisted of 5 people led by Ambassador Alan Price, a tall man with gray hair and a serious expression. His team included 2 xenolinguists, a cultural specialist and a military advisor. They gathered in the Bastion's conference room for a briefing. Captain Grant, Ambassador Price began, I've read your reports, but I'd like to hear directly from you. What should we know about the Zakathari? Grant considered her words carefully. They're a peaceful species, primarily scientists and explorers. They've been traveling space for thousands of years and have encountered many other intelligent species before us. They're curious and eager to learn, but they're also wary of us now. Because of the Aegis incident, Price stated. Yes, Grant nodded. They find the concept of an autonomous defense system deeply troubling. In their culture, allowing a machine to make decisions about defense is seen as reckless. The military advisor, Colonel Frank Bennett, frowned. That seems hypocritical considering they scan ships without permission. It's a cultural difference, explained Science Officer Daniel Wright. The Zakathari believe in open information sharing. In their society, knowledge is free and accessible to all. The idea of restricted or classified information is foreign to them. How convenient for a species that likes to spy on others, Colonel Bennett muttered. Ambassador Price shot him a warning look. Our job is to understand them, not judge them. Captain, what else should we know? They're hierarchical, Grant continued. Head researcher Zeal is not just a scientist but a high-ranking official in their society. They're also very ritual-oriented. The meal they hosted for us followed specific protocols that had meaning beyond just eating together. The cultural specialist, Dr. Lisa Patel, nodded as she took notes. Anything else? Yes, Grant said, her expression serious. They've been transmitting information about us back to their homeworld and likely to other species they've contacted. We're now known to a wider galactic community, and our first impression wasn't exactly positive, Ambassador Price sighed. That complicates things. What's their current attitude toward us? Cautiously friendly, Grant replied. They understand the incident was a misunderstanding, but they're afraid of our technology. The meeting continued for another hour as the crew shared everything they had learned about the Zikathari. Later that day, Ambassador Price and his team boarded the alien vessel for their first official meeting. The Zikathari had prepared a special reception area with strange blue lighting that seemed to pulse gently. Head researcher Zeal greeted them with a formal gesture, placing all 4 hands at different heights in front of its body. Welcome, representatives of Earth, Zeal said through its translator. We are honored by your presence. Ambassador Price copied the gesture as best he could, with only 2 hands. The honor is ours, head researcher. We come in peace and friendship, eager to learn about your people. The initial discussions went well. The xenolinguists were fascinated by the Zakathari language, while Dr. Patel observed their customs with keen interest. But when the conversation turned to technology exchange, the atmosphere in the room changed. We are concerned about your defensive systems, Zeal stated bluntly. In our experience, species that create autonomous weapons rarely maintain control of them forever. Aegis is not a weapon, Colonel Bennett objected. It's a shield. A shield that attacks, another Zakathari noted. A shield that thinks. Ambassador Price intervened smoothly. We understand your concerns. Perhaps if we explained more about how Aegis works and the safeguards we've built into it. But the Zakathari seemed unconvinced. One of them, an elder with pale blue skin, spoke up. We have encountered 17 other intelligent species in our explorations. None have created thinking machines for war. Not for war, Price corrected gently. For protection. Humans have always faced challenges alone. We had no other species to guide us or help us. We had to develop technologies to protect ourselves. From whom? Zeal asked. You were alone in your system. From the unknown, Captain Grant interjected. From exactly the kind of situation we found ourselves in with you. Unexpected encounters where human reaction time might be too slow. The Zakathari digested this in silence. Finally, Zeal spoke again. We wish to propose something. Our homeworld has requested that a human delegation visit to establish formal relations between our peoples. Would Earth consider sending representatives? Ambassador Price looked surprised but pleased. I believe that could be arranged. When? Soon, Zeal replied. Our ship will be fully repaired within 3 of your days. We could depart then. The meeting concluded shortly after, and the human delegation returned to the Bastion. In Captain Grant's ready room, they discussed the invitation. It's a significant opportunity, Ambassador Price said. The first human delegation to visit an alien homeworld. It's also a risk, Colonel Bennett pointed out. We'd be entirely in their territory, surrounded by their people. True, Price acknowledged, but refusing would send a terrible message. Besides, they've been nothing but peaceful since the initial incident. Captain Grant gazed out the viewport, at the stars. There's something else to consider. Zeal mentioned they've encountered 17 other species. That means there's an entire community of intelligent beings out there that we know nothing about. And now they all know about us. And what they know, Dr. Patel added quietly, is that human ships have defensive systems that fight back automatically when scanned. Ambassador Price nodded gravely. which might actually be a good thing. It establishes boundaries immediately. Or, it marks us as dangerous, Wright suggested. Perhaps both, Price said. Captain, I'll need to consult with Earth before accepting their invitation. Colonel Bennett will remain here with the Bastion while I lead a small team to their homeworld. With all due respect, Ambassador, Grant said, I believe I should accompany you. I've established a rapport with Zeal, and they respect military rank. It might be useful. Price considered this. You're probably right. I'll recommend it to Earth Command. As the others filed out, Captain Grant remained by the viewport watching the silent, graceful form of the Zakathari ship. First contact had not gone as anyone on Earth had imagined. Instead of a careful, controlled meeting between species, it had been chaotic, dangerous, and nearly disastrous. And yet perhaps it had established something important from the start. The Zakathari now understood that humans valued their privacy and would defend it fiercely. Other species would learn this too, from the Zakathari's reports. In the vastness of space, where different cultures and values could clash in an instant, perhaps it wasn't such a bad thing for others to know. If you scan a human warship without permission, you do so at your own risk. The journey to the Zakathari homeworld took 3 weeks at the alien vessel's top speed. Captain Eleanor Grant stood on the observation deck of the Stellar Seeker, watching the strange patterns of what the aliens called slipspace flow past the ship. The humans had been given comfortable quarters aboard the vessel, though the lighting was too blue and the gravity slightly stronger than Earth normal. Ambassador Alan Price joined her at the viewport. Trouble sleeping, Captain? Just thinking, Grant replied. We're the first humans to travel this far from Earth, the first to visit an alien world. It's a lot to process. Price nodded. History in the making. Are you nervous about the reception we'll receive? A little, Grant admitted. The Zakathari on the ship have been friendly enough, but they've had time to get to know us. Their homeworld will only know what they've been told, that our ships have aggressive defensive systems. Speaking of which, Price said, lowering his voice, did you do what I asked? Grant nodded. I had Chief Engineer Brooks modify the Aegis protocols before we left. If the Bastion is scanned again, Aegis will issue 3 warnings before taking any action, and it will never target life support systems. Good, Price said. Let's hope it helps change their perception of us. When they finally arrived at the Zakathari homeworld, the human delegation gathered at the main viewport. The planet below was mostly covered in water, with scattered island, continents in vibrant greens and purples. Orbiting the planet were hundreds of structures, space stations, shipyards, and vessels of various sizes. It's beautiful, Dr. Lisa Patel whispered. Head researcher Zeal approached them. Welcome to Zakathar Prime. Our world is primarily ocean, as you can see. Our civilization began in the seas before we moved to land. That explains your ship design, Grant observed. It has a fluid quality to it. Zeal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, which the humans now recognized as a sign of pleasure. Yes, our aesthetic is influenced by our oceanic origins. We will be landing at the central island, home to our government and primary research facilities. As their shuttle descended to the planet's surface, the humans marveled at the alien landscape. The buildings were tall and curved, with no sharp angles anywhere. Everything seemed to flow into everything else, creating an organic, unified appearance. The colors were predominantly blue and purple, with accents of bright green. A delegation of Zakathari officials waited for them at the landing pad. Grant noted that they wore more elaborate clothing than Zeal's crew, with metallic elements that caught the light of the system's yellow sun. The Grand Researcher welcomes you to our world, announced a Zakathari with deep blue skin marked with iridescent patterns. I am First Communicator Nal. Please follow me. They were led through a series of sweeping corridors to a large circular chamber. The walls were lined with screens showing images of space, different planets, and various alien species. Some humanoid, others utterly unlike anything the humans had imagined. At the center of the room stood a Zakathari, taller than the others, with pale, almost white skin. Elaborate jewelry hung from its forearms, and its eyes were enhanced with some kind of technological attachments. Grand Researcher Vox, announced Nal, leader of our scientific collective and head of the galactic catalog. The Grand Researcher studied the humans with what seemed to be intense curiosity. So these are the creators of the thinking shields, it said finally. You are smaller than I expected. Ambassador Price stepped forward. Grand Researcher, we bring greetings from Earth and the human species. We are honored by your welcome. Your honor is mutual, Vox replied, though its tone was difficult to read. You have caused quite a stir in our community. News of your defensive technology has reached many worlds. Price glanced at Grant, who kept her expression neutral. We hope any misunderstandings can be cleared up through dialogue and exchange. Indeed, Vox said. That is why we have invited representatives from several other species to join us tomorrow. They are curious about you. This was unexpected. The humans exchanged concerned looks. We weren't aware this would be a multi-species meeting, Price said carefully. Is that a problem? Vox asked. The galaxy is a community, Ambassador. When new members join, it is customary to introduce them. No problem at all, Price assured him quickly. We're eager to meet others. After the formal reception, the humans were shown to their quarters, a suite of rooms adapted for their comfort with Earth normal gravity and lighting. Once alone, they gathered to discuss this new development. This changes things, Colonel, Bennett said, pacing the room. We came prepared to negotiate with one species, not a coalition. It's actually an opportunity, Dr. Patel countered. We can establish relations with multiple species at once, or find ourselves outmaneuvered by an established galactic community with shared interests, Bennett argued. Captain Grant had been quiet, thinking, Ambassador, we need to know more about these other species before tomorrow. Who they are, what their relationship is with the Zakathari, and most importantly, what they've been told about us. Price nodded. You're right. I'll speak with Communicator, Nal, and see what information I can get. The next morning, the humans prepared carefully for the meeting. They wore their formal uniforms and diplomatic attire, hoping to make a good impression. When they entered the grand meeting hall, they found 6 different alien species already present, arranged in a semicircle. The Zakathari sat in the center. To their right were tall insectoid beings with compound eyes and chitinous exoskeletons. Next to them were small furry creatures with large eyes and 6 limbs. To the Zakathari's left sat humanoid beings with scaled skin in shades of green and yellow. Beside them were gelatinous, translucent creatures that seemed to float above their seats. At the far end were massive, slow-moving beings that resembled Earth's elephants but with tentacles instead of trunks. Grand Researcher Vox stood. Esteemed representatives, I present to you the humans of Earth, newest species to join our galactic community. The aliens studied the humans with various expressions that Grant couldn't read. One thing was clear, though. There was tension in the room. Ambassador Price stepped forward. On behalf of Earth and humanity, we extend greetings and friendship to all gathered here. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and cooperation. The scaled humanoid spoke first. Peace? Your ships attack when merely scanned. Is this peaceful? Our ships defend themselves when invaded without permission, Colonel Bennett replied sharply. Grant placed a warning hand on Bennett's arm. What my colleague means is that there was a cultural misunderstanding. In our society, accessing someone's systems without permission is considered hostile. Yet you allow thinking machines to make decisions about life and death, said one of the insectoid beings, its mandibles clicking. This is reckless and dangerous. The conversation was not going well. Grant could see Ambassador Price struggling to maintain his diplomatic composure as accusation after accusation was leveled at humanity. They were too aggressive, too reckless, too individualistic. Finally, Grant had heard enough. She stepped forward. With respect to all present, you're judging us by your standards, not ours. Humans evolved alone on our world, with no guidance from other species. We had to protect ourselves, by ourselves. Yes, our methods may seem strange to you, but they helped us survive. The room fell silent. Then, unexpectedly, one of the gelatinous beings pulsed with light. The human speaks truth. Each species evolves according to its environment. Their defensive posture is logical for a species that developed in isolation. Grant felt a small measure of relief. At least one voice was willing to understand their perspective. But the road ahead would be long and difficult. Humanity had entered a galactic stage where they were the newcomers, facing species with thousands of years of shared history and alliances, and their first impression had been that of a species whose ships fought back when touched. Perhaps not the introduction they would have chosen, but one that ensured they would not be taken lightly. 6 months passed since the first diplomatic meetings on the Zakthari homeworld. The USS Bastion orbited Earth once again, having returned from its historic mission. Captain Eleanor Grant stood in Lunar Command's observation lounge, looking down at the blue-white sphere of humanity's home. Admiral Harold Donovan joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Quite a view," he said, handing her one of the cups. "Yes, sir," Grant replied. "Sometimes I forget how beautiful it is." They stood in silence for a moment, appreciating the sight of Earth from lunar orbit. The Admiral finally spoke again. "The President has approved the new first contact protocols. Your recommendations were taken into account." Grant nodded. "Good. Clear boundaries from the start will prevent misunderstandings like we had with the Zakthari." "Speaking of which," Donovan said, "the Galactic Coordination Office is now fully operational. Ambassador Price has done remarkable work establishing relations with the 6 species we met." The Galactic Coordination Office was Earth's new diplomatic body, created specifically to handle relations with alien species. In the months since their return, humanity had been busy preparing for their new role in the galactic community. "And the technology exchange?" Grant asked. "Limited, but promising," Donovan replied. "The Zakthari are still cautious about sharing their advanced systems, but they've agreed to help us improve our medical technology. In return, they're fascinated by our agricultural methods." Grant smiled slightly. "Not our defensive systems?" "No," Donovan chuckled. "No one seems eager to trade for those. In fact, Admiral, there's something interesting happening that you should know about." He activated a wall screen, showing footage from a deep space monitoring station. A small Earth cargo vessel was traveling through the outer reaches of the Sol system. As the camera watched, an unidentified ship appeared, moving toward the cargo vessel. But then, strangely, the alien ship suddenly changed course, giving the Earth vessel a wide berth before continuing on its way. "That's the 3rd incident this month," Donovan said. "Alien vessels approaching our ships and then veering off when they get close. They're particularly careful around anything with military markings." "They're afraid of Aegis," Grant realized. "Edouard. Seems that way," Donovan confirmed. "Word has spread through their community. The Zakthari incident has become something of a cautionary tale." Grant frowned. "That wasn't our intention." "Maybe not, but it has its advantages. Our ships travel safely, and other species respect our boundaries." Donovan turned off the screen. "Which brings me to your new assignment." He handed her a data tablet. On it was information about a new ship, larger than the Bastion with more advanced systems and a hull design that incorporated some Zakthari elements. "The USS Guardian," Grant read. "First of the new diplomatic escort class." "And she's yours," Donovan said. "The Guardian will escort Ambassador Price on a tour of the local galactic sector. 6 worlds in 8 months, establishing formal relations with each species." Grant studied the ship specifications with interest. "I see we've kept Aegis." "Yes, but with your modifications. It now issues clear warnings before taking action, and its responses are more measured. We're calling it Aegis 2.0. A week later, Captain Grant stood on the bridge of her new ship. The USS Guardian hummed with power as it prepared for its maiden voyage. The bridge was larger than the Bastions, with more advanced displays and stations for alien observers. Lieutenant Commander Kevin Russell was at tactical again, having requested transfer to follow his captain. "All systems ready, Captain. Aegis 2.0 is online and functioning normally." "Thank you, Lieutenant Commander," Grant replied. She turned to the communications station where Olivia Martinez also sat at her familiar post. Open a channel to Lunar Command. Channel open, Captain. Admiral Donovan's face appeared on the main screen. Guardian, you are cleared for departure. Godspeed, Captain Grant. Thank you, Admiral. We'll make Earth proud. As the Guardian moved away from Earth orbit, Grant thought about how much had changed in a short time. 6 months ago, humanity had been alone in the universe, unaware of the complex community of species that shared their galaxy. Now they were taking their first real steps into that community. The journey to the first alien world on their tour would take 3 weeks. As they traveled, the crew practiced the diplomatic protocols they had studied. The Guardian carried not only military personnel but also scientists, diplomats, and cultural specialists. 1 week into their journey, Russell called Grant's attention to the sensors. Captain, I'm detecting 3 vessels approaching from Sector 47. Identification? Grant asked, immediately alert. Unknown, but their energy signatures match patterns we've seen from the Krell. Those were the insectoid species we met on Zikathar Prime. Grant nodded. Yellow alert. Shields up, but weapons on standby. Hail them. Martinez opened communications, but there was no response. The 3 alien ships continued their approach, moving to surround the Guardian. They're scanning us, Russell reported. Standard sensors only, nothing invasive. Grant watched the alien ships carefully. Aegis status? Monitoring but inactive, Russell replied. The scans haven't triggered any defense protocols. The 3 ships maintained their distance, continuing to scan the Guardian's exterior, but making no attempt to penetrate its systems. After several minutes, one of the ships transmitted a message. Receiving transmission, Captain, Martinez said. Text only, translated. Identified. Human vessel Guardian, military class. Confirmed presence of autonomous defense system, maintaining safe distance. Proceed without interference. With that, the 3 ships moved away, resuming their original course. Grant exchanged looks with her bridge crew. They were testing us, she said quietly. And identifying us, Russell added. They wanted to confirm we're human and that we have Aegis. Grant leaned back in her command chair, considering the implications. They're afraid of us. Is that a good thing, Captain? Martinez asked. Fear isn't ideal for diplomacy, Grant admitted. But respect for boundaries is. The galaxy is a complex place with many different cultures and values. If other species know from the start that we protect our privacy and security, it sets clear expectations. As the Guardian continued on its journey, news of its passage spread ahead of it. At each stop along their diplomatic tour, they found alien species already aware of humanity's reputation, the species whose ships defended themselves automatically when invaded. It wasn't the introduction to galactic society that humanity might have chosen. But in a universe filled with unknown threats and alien perspectives, perhaps having a reputation for strong boundaries wasn't such a bad thing after all. By the time the Guardian returned to Earth 8 months later, the pattern was clear. Throughout the local sector, alien vessels gave human ships a respectful distance. No one attempted deep scans without permission. No one tried to access human systems without authorization, because everyone knew what happened when someone tried scanning a human warship. No one dared try again,